Non-performing assets. So in this introduction, we will see what is non-performing advances. So on recommendations of the Narasimhan Committee, the Reserve Bank started implementing prudential guidelines on asset classification, income recognition and provisioning of loan assets. This has occurred in a phased manner, starting with the accounting year beginning in 1st April 1992 and has modified the original guidelines a number of times. So non-performing assets are basically, they follow some criteria which we will explain later, but the asset classification by themselves belong to four categories, which are standard assets, substandard assets, doubtful assets and loss assets. We will explain this later in this session. So before going to that, we will have to see what is the concept of past due. So what exactly is past due? We will try to give a brief explanation of past due. So treating a credit facility as non-performing was based on the concept of past due, where it was defined that the due amount, if remain unpaid for more than 30 days from due date, was considered to belong to that category. But now the concept of past due is no more in force. It is done away with from March 2001. Next, we will see what are non-performing assets and what are the different criteria of non-performing assets. So some of the criteria we try to go through. One is term loans, which is in criteria 1. Other accounts in criteria 2. Overdraft or cash credit in criteria 3. And interest in criteria 4. So term loans in criteria 1, what are they? So before going there, we have to understand that some of the following criteria are only observed for classifying loan accounts as non-performing asset. So for term loan, which is criteria 1, there is interest or installment of principal payment which remains overdue for more than 90 days. So those term loans will be classified as non-performing assets. Now for other accounts, where there is any receivable that remain unpaid for more than 90 days also is considered non-performing asset. Overdraft or cash credit. All those cash credit accounts that remain non-workable for a period of more than 90 days is considered as a non-performing asset. For interest, if banks classify, so that is criteria 4, if banks classify those accounts in which the interest charge remains unpayable for more than 90 days, so those accounts also are considered non-performing assets. Now there is another criteria 5, which is agricultural account. If for 2 crop seasons a loan granted for short duration crop remains unpaid, it will be treated also as a non-performing asset. Next, we'll see what are the asset classification. So there are, as I was explaining, there are 4 different types, which is standard asset, substandard asset, doubtful asset and loss asset. So in order to make provisions against loan losses and to assess the general quality of portfolio, the loan accounts are required to be classified under these classifications: standard, substandard, doubtful and loss. So what is standard assets? Standard assets carry risk that is only normal risk and does not disclose problems. A substandard asset is a non-performing asset for a period not exceeding 12 months. Those assets whose value is up to 10% of loan amount from date of advance is considered unsecured substandard account. So that is substandard asset. Now, doubtful asset is a NPA, which is a non-performing asset that has remained in that state for more than 12 months. It is again subclassified as doubtful up to 1 year, doubtful between 1 year and 3 years, and doubtful more than 3 years. And lastly, loss asset, which is an asset where loss is recorded by bank or internal or external auditors. The amount in such a case is not written off, either in part or in whole. Only those advances will be loss assets whose security is not available. So this completes a session on non-performing assets. Thanks.